It's time for Where You Live with Gene and Tony, the show that's all about owning, buying, selling, renting, and association management. If it involves a home, we'll talk about it. Here's your chance to get your homeowner questions answered. From the Concierge Landscape Studios, here's Gene and Tony.
Needed the shelter of someone's arms, and there you were. Needed someone to understand my ups and downs, and there.
Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony, and welcome to Hour 2. If you're just joining us, I last segment began talking about this article coming out of Nevada, where there's a concern at the Nevada legislature that a lot of homeowner associations apparently seem to be holding their meetings closed so that other homeowners aren't able to attend. And I don't think that takes place a lot here in Minnesota. In fact, I know it doesn't, at least not with the associations that we are associated with. I think by and large, most homeowner associations want and encourage members from their community to take part and to be a part of these meetings. But it does happen, and there's some things you need to be concerned with if you allow this to happen. And so is that a concern with you? Do you have closed meetings and aren't able to know what's going on at your HOA? Give us a call. The number here, 651-289-4488. We're broadcasting live from the Concierge Landscape Studios, and also brought to you this second hour by Extreme Exteriors. And again, like I said, I don't think this is happening a lot here in Minnesota, but it does. And this is, I guess, a perfect case of where a few bad apples really does spoil the bunch, where you end up having just a few people doing something that most people don't, and as a result, you end up getting something, a body like the state legislature stepping in and acting, and now all of a sudden creating a new set of laws and a new set of statutes that need to be followed. And I think we need to be concerned. You know, a lot of times when there are one person who may be upset about a matter and they take it before the legislature, sometimes you just see all kinds of laws being proposed. And folks, haven't we seen that take place this last session here in Minnesota concerning homeowner associations? We have, and we've talked about it for a number of weeks, and it is just really a bad idea when you are using something that is not the norm but the exception, and anytime you make laws out of the exception instead of the norm, I think you've got a bad law. And we need to stop and think that unless we take what we do in this industry seriously, in terms of how meetings are going to be held and making sure that you go out of your way as a homeowners association and making information available to homeowners, you need to go out of your way to do that. If not, I think what you'll end up seeing is more and more where our industry will begin to be policed by others like the state legislature if we can't police ourselves. And when you stop to think about it, the only reason we have an increasing number of laws is because we don't know how to live or act with one another. That's the bottom line, isn't it? The reason you have a rule or a regulation at a homeowner association, and we were talking about that earlier, why? It's because we don't know how to be considerate towards one another. So we have to come up with rules. Why does the state legislature come up with laws and state statutes? It's because for some reason we just don't seem to know how to treat and act towards one another. And some of these things you would think would just make sense. And that, of course, being the notion or idea that if you're in a homeowners association, if you're dealing with a nonprofit corporation, a group of people who all put in and chip in money together monthly for certain services and amenities that they share and appreciate and use, then that group has a responsibility to keep everybody in the know. But an association that wants to keep their meetings private, it just doesn't make sense. And I think you end up creating a lot more havoc, probably a lot more consternation. You probably deal with a lot more issues in your homeowners association if you have closed meetings than you would if you were to have your meetings open. And again, I don't think it happens a lot, but when it does, folks, you at a HOA, you need to say something. You need to do something, and that begins at the annual meeting. If you are living in a homeowners association and the meetings are closed and you can't get information, even though that you respectfully request it and give opportunity for them to get that information to you, then what is your responsibility as a homeowner? Well, number one, your first responsibility would be to vote those directors out. You don't allow that to continue on. Number two, it may mean that not only do you vote those directors out, it may mean that you run yourself. Hey, there's an idea. A lot of people may not like to hear that, but they may need to run themselves. And I tell you, it will also mean being involved by showing up and voting. There is this misunderstanding when someone purchases and buys into a homeowners association that it is a time saver, that they are freed up. And in some ways that is true, but you're not freed up from all responsibility as a homeowner. What you end up having is a sharing. You aren't doing the grounds care now. You may not be doing the snow removal, but that service needs to be paid for, and so you're paying that along with everybody else. And because you're doing that, you have some clout, and you're probably having some savings that you're seeing by paying a lot less than you normally would. You know, the average person in a homeowners association probably doesn't pay more than maybe $30 to $40 a month for lawn care and snow care. That's a month. If you lived in a single-family home, people probably pay $25, $35 a week to have your grass cut. They probably pay anywhere between $25 to $50 a time to have a snowplow come out and plow and clear a driveway. So there are some savings that take place by living together in a homeowners association, but someone has got to be involved with that. Someone has to be involved with the time. And so there may be a savings of some time, but it doesn't mean that no time is going to be spent. And so in a homeowners association, you need to take the time to know what's going on with your HOA. You need to take the time to become involved and take turns. And different homeowners need to be a part of the leadership and taking part of being on the board at your homeowners association. And you should not have closed meetings. How should meetings be held if you are in an HOA? Basically, a homeowner association should take great care to, number one, constantly notify all homeowners of meetings that are coming up. The idea or notion that I talked about last segment where someone says, well, it just seems like it's a waste of money. Why would we want to do that? We're wasting the postage and the paper that it's written on because nobody seems to want to read it. They just deep six it in the nearest trash can. And that may be the case, but that's not for you to decide. As a board of directors, you need to encourage and you need to get information out there, and that means doing it again and again and again. And it may mean being able to provide several ways of getting that information out of when those meetings are taking place. Next, When you give people notice of when those upcoming meetings are, do you send out copies of the past meeting minutes or of the financials so that they can get an idea of what is being spent and why, the decisions that you as a board need to make, and how hard some of them are sometimes be able to come to a decision and a consensus? Without doing that, it's, of course, very easy to see why a homeowner will say that they're always upset with the dues that they pay to their homeowners association because they don't know how the money is being spent. You need to share that information to them. And then when you have the meeting itself, it's always a good idea to allow for homeowners to have input at every meeting. And that's typically something that's called a homeowners forum, and that can take place at the beginning or at the end of the board meeting. I'm not here to say that you open up all of the meeting, all of the discussion, all of the activity, all of the decisions to everybody that shows up each and every time. That would not be efficient, and that's not representative government. That's not what is why you have a board of directors voted on and elected as board members. You do that so that you can be more efficient. But by the same token, you need to also allow homeowners to have the time to share their concerns, their thoughts, and you need to listen and have a forum for them to be able to do that. So the homeowners forum, allowing some time either before or at the end of the meeting, allows you to do that. And then once the meeting gets started, of course, a board needs to go ahead with the business. And then it begins to act quite a bit like City Hall or the state legislature. You know, we can go to the state legislature and see what takes place with the House, with bills that are being offered on the floor. We can't necessarily participate because it's representative government, but we can go there and listen and know what's taking place. That's good government. That's having open meetings. And so I'm certainly in favor of this Nevada legislature that's saying that it ought to be mandatory that homeowner associations have open meetings for their members. To me, it seems to be a sad case that you get to a point where you have to make this law because this, to me, just is common sense. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to ask another question. Why don't people serve on the board? Why do some HOAs have a difficult time finding someone to be on the board? We'll talk about that after these messages.